and this is a shout out to the parents, please teach your students this, your full address, you know, your house number and the street, or because some students only put the street or they only put the house number. That doesn't help us. So memorize that if you haven't already, but it is free, and it is free at all the other community colleges within the state. And so again, if your school is participating in Apply to College Days, definitely work with your counselors. If they're not, definitely still work with your counselor, especially with fee waivers. That's the best advice I can give you at this time.
And then so for our fees, we don't have an application fee. It is free to apply to Nebraska Wesleyan, and I do know that there are several private schools that is the same. Not all, so you do have to check that out individually on each website. One of the things I wanted to make sure that students know is if you go to the Education Quest website on Apply to College, they have videos from different colleges on how to apply. So you literally can, I mean, if you have two screens or you can do a split screen, you can have the how-to on one side and then the actual application up, and you can just walk through it. So I know that there are private colleges, public and community on that. So Education Quest has done a great job of getting those application videos out so that we can do that. But we'll always help as well and make sure that we get you, to where you need to go.
Let me ask two more questions here from the chat because they're all relevant. And I'm going to mix two questions in once. What kind of classes, when you look at the GPA, are you looking at the rigorous or non-rigorous, the type of classes that the students took? And then also, what is the math requirement to be admitted? And Stacy, how about you go, and then we'll kind of do a little reverse.
Well, for Nebraska Wesleyan, the first question is, we do take the weighted GPA. So whatever you have worked for in college or in high school, we're taking that. If you've worked on those classes. So when you're looking at admission, we definitely take that weighted GPA. We do take those classes in. I think we are going to talk a little bit about dual credit later, so I won't get into dual credit right now, Lena. But and then you're talking about what was the second part?
The math requirement.
The math requirement. So for Nebraska Wesleyan, we have recommendations. If you have graduated from a Nebraska high school, which all of you are, this is a Nebraska college fair. If you've graduated, you have met our recommendations. You've met the recommendations. There are higher recommendations. If you're looking to go pre-med, of course, we're going to say, you probably should have taken some pretty heavy science. If you're looking to be a teacher, we want to make sure, that you've got your English and your math and all of those in line. But they are recommendations. They're not requirements. So those are two different words that sometimes, what are the requirements? What are the recommendations? And so for us, they're two different things. Gretchen, you want to talk about?
Because we're open enrollment, we want to see your high school diploma, your final transcript. And again, with the AccuPlacer or the ACT scores, especially the ACT sub-scores, we use those for placement purposes, so you are in the correct challenging class. There is a question out here, is your standardized testing score necessary for trade school? It is not. Okay. But you want to specifically ask that trade school. And then there was another question, if you are applying for a college outside Nebraska, do you have to take the SAT and ACT? That you would need to get in touch with that school. I've worked at four-year public and private universities and colleges in my career, and each school was very different. And right. So surf through their website, see what the requirements are. And some schools might recommend ACT or SAT. Mm-hmm. It depends upon what you want to take, if you can take it and if it's an option. But definitely check those schools because they also may be test optional at this point. And,
well, and it seems that the coasts, the West Coast, East Coast are SAT heavy. Yep. So if you're looking at any school, on either one of those coasts, those seem to be pretty heavy on the SAT, but it just varies by school. It totally varies by school.
And some students do better in one test or the other. So if you
Right.
have the means to take both, do so. If you can, do so. It's it's just two entities that host the
Right.
different ACTs. So that is that they're both standardized testing. A lot of bubbles that you're going to be filling out.
Yeah.
So it's just as simple. Let me answer the question about the math requirement for
Yes,
the state
for
system
sure.
as well. So for Lincoln, UNL, you're required to have 4 years of math. For UNK and UNO, you're only required to take 3. But to be honest with you, I started by saying 4 because if there is a number that I want you to remember, is 4 years of math. There is a lot of research that says that you do better in college if you do take the 4 years of math.
Okay.
So I encourage you to take the 4 years of math. And the other question, I forgot it. What was the other question that I even asked you?
About the is it weighted or non-weighted?
Oh,
the classes,
that's right. So for admissions purposes, honestly, we're going to look very generally, right? So the weighted GPA, the one that benefits you the most.
Right.
I think that for scholarships, that's when rigor is probably going to play a little bit more, a bigger role.
Especially those
So
competitive,
it is
the competitive
exactly.
scholarships. Those are gonna, yeah.
So I know that I talk to in general students, right? I mean, if you're going to take an AP class and you're going to get a D in that AP class, I don't know if you should be taking that AP class at a D level. Make the effort. I want you to see an A. Of course, a B in an AP class or an A in a regular class, we understand the rigor of the AP class.
Right.
So we understand. So I know what that does to your GPA. But I do think that when we get into the just barely passing the AP classes, the C's and the D's, that I know I get concerned. And I know we're going to talk about dual enrollment, but same with that. If you're taking dual enrollment classes or you're not doing so well, that also is an indicator of how well you do at the college level. And I think that now that I'm going into grades and things, this is a very important question because I think that, Stacia, you mentioned a 3.25 GPA. I mentioned a sure admission at 3.0. And
Right.
I think people are saying, wait, but what if I have a 2.7? Or what if I have a lower GPA? Does that mean that I'm not being able to be admissible? And I can tell you that in the state system, both the university and the state system, we look at every application.
Yes.
So we're going to look at every student individually, and we look at the 2.7 GPA. There is a whole process to be admissible, even if you don't meet those minimum requirements for assured admissions. So submit the application.
I'm going to throw out an admissions word, Lena. Holistic. Okay, this is an admissions word. Okay, so I'll explain that. You know, we are a holistic application, so we do look at the whole application. We don't just look at the 2 scores or a score. We look at everything you've taken. We look at if you are under that 3.25 or under that standard. We let you have teacher recommendations and what activities have you been in, and there's a personal statement, and your counselors are very pivotal on giving some recommendations because they know you so well. So that's our holistic approach as well.
And I think that applies to whether you have the right GPA or you think maybe I don't have all the classes.
Right.
I think later on there is a question about what if I don't have all the math? Can I still apply to Lincoln, or go ahead and submit the application, because that's how you let us kind of look at your profile and let us make the decision. Now, if you know right now that you're already deficient, I do recommend that maybe you have a conversation with your high school counselor and see what you can do. I think that we're having the conversation in September, in October, there could still be time. If we were having the conversation in May, once you have the diploma in your hands, then what it's done is done.
Right.
I think, yeah, and there is a couple other questions here about what is the requirement for Wayne State, or what is the requirement for any other institution? I think that I'm going to say an umbrella statement here. These are great questions to go and ask the booths today.
Yes.
You have already a list of questions. So you know now that we have different requirements in math. You know now that we have different requirements in GPAs.
Yep.
So go with those 2 questions and talk to the admissions representatives. So, and what if I don't meet those requirements?
We're
Because
all
that's what we're
waiting
here
in
for.
our booths to talk to you under the presentation pieces and under the chat. So go in the booths and ask these great specific questions for those specific universities. I'm going to shift gears just a bit. I want to talk about, you know, the title, finding the, you know, the best fit for college. And Lena, you had that acronym that Gretchen and I loved. And so if you could tell us this acronym that you use about finding a good fit for yourself, I love that acronym.
Absolutely. And I think of salsa. So when I think about finding the right fit, I think of salsa. And you can either, if you're hungry, you can start thinking about that red sauce, or you can also start thinking about the music and dancing, right? So salsa. So you need to remember salsa. And salsa stands for, the first S is size. So the size of the institution, the size of the classes, the size matters. And by the way, this is every single person in here has their own individual salsa. There is not a universal salsa. So size for every person is unique.
Right.
Then the next one, and then we can unpack if you wanted to. The next one is academics. Of course, if you're going to go, and of course you mentioned, Stacy, you mentioned pre-med. I think a question to ask in the booths is not whether you have the major that I'm thinking about or not, but maybe go more open with saying, what kind of opportunities do you have if I'm interested in pre-med?
Right.
Because that will allow us to really tell you, what can we do for you if you choose us? So academics is thinking about, okay, I am thinking about going into this, or I am changing my major, or I know exactly I'm doing this, and you want to see where that fits academically with the institution. So we have size,
also,
academics.
Lena, with the opportunities, the word outcome can be something that they might not be familiar with, to ask an institute, what is your med school placement rate? What are your graduates doing? What are they doing? Are they teaching in Lincoln Public Schools? Are they doing, you know, those outcome questions are good questions to ask in the booths as well, as far as the academics and what that looks like.
So size, academics.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're spelling once again salsa. So now we have L, which is location. And I think that here, for example, we have a very unique representation of the state of Nebraska, Omaha, Lincoln, and all the way to Scottsbluff, right? It is not the same. It is not the same to say, I'm just going to go anywhere in Nebraska. That is not the same. So you have to figure out location and what's feasible for you, what's feasible for your family. If you're thinking about going out of state, know that you're probably going to pay out of state tuition. Same people, if you are not from Nebraska, you're probably also going to be paying out of state tuition. Of course, there is discounts, there's different things, so I would ask for the out of pocket, but location may affect the price. So that's why location matters, but it also may affect the price. So size, academics, location, and now you're thinking, you gotta be creative here, a money sign, chi-ching. So that's my next, in my salsa. So money, right? When you are thinking, is how much am I going to pay out of pocket to go to your college? And here is where you start weighting, how much am I going to pay per quarter, per semester, per year? How much are books? How often am I going to go home? Because location also matters, right? If you end up having to fly to your new university, then flying back, how often am I going to do it? That costs money. So this is all part of the equation. And when you think about money, yes, we're thinking about scholarships because that is important, but we're also looking at your financial aid packet. So you're really not probably going to know your out-of-pocket expense maybe until December, January is when you start kind of knowing some of those things. At least you start getting a better idea on the formula. If you submit your FAFSA in October, make sure you do that. So size, academics, location, chi-ching, because you're gonna get creative. And then the last one is activities. Because we know when we look about fit, that when you choose a university, you have to choose a university where you're going to be happy. And one of the things that makes you happy is whether you're going to find activities that you see that are of your interest. If you're going to, yeah, I mean, and that's sports, theater, anything. And sometimes you're going to be part of those things. Sometimes you're going to be an observer. Sometimes you'll be part of the audience. Right. But when you think about activities, again, think about the broad picture. So salsa, let me repeat it one more time. Size, academics, location, teaching, activities.
Okay. Very good. Thank you so much. I love it. And we're going to talk a little bit about scholarships, because there's I mean, that's what people want to talk about too. But one of the things that I really, you and the three of us talked about this, kind of this language that we're hearing that, you know, I'm going to wait and I'm going to take a gap year. And I'm not going to, I'm just going to wait, and I'm going to, and what we're hearing also is, you know, I'm going to wait until I take my ACT to apply, or I'm going to wait until I decide which school I want to go to, and then I'll apply to that school. And we tell students, you know, let's get all the information, which is great. We've got 147 participating right now, gathering information. Let's get all the information in front of us and make that decision, you know, with a lot of information. And the cha-ching is a lot of the information, the scholarships and all of that. You cannot do a financial aid package if you haven't applied somewhere. And then you talked about the social security number. That's why we want that to match it with the FAFSA to match. So it's all layered in there, but we're all here ready to help you with that, that process. And so we want you to apply to all the schools that you're interested in. So let's say you're interested in maybe a community college. Maybe you don't know if you want to go community college first and then the university, and then, or maybe you don't know. That's okay. Apply to both. Apply to both. Go visit both, walk through the process on both, and see what you're going to do. Gretchen, I know you're dying to say something here.
No, this has been great listening to you all. That I'm so glad you have that mentioned a community college, start there and then transfer to a four-year school. That cha-ching part of that salsa means that if you find that starting off at a four-year is not as affordable as you thought it would be, you can start at your community college. You can start there, save some money, and then transfer to the four-year institution. And so we tried to meet the needs of all those students who, for a variety of reasons why they choose the community colleges. So, and our community colleges also have transfer advisors to help you through that application process to apply to transfer to UNO, to Nebraska Wesleyan, or any other four-year institution. So don't automatically rule them out because it's not the four-year experience, but don't automatically rule out any of the four-year schools, public and private, because of cost, because today you do not know if you can afford them. Because you don't have your financial aid package, you don't have your scholarships yet, and you may not even have applied yet. So, you know,
apply.
Don't wait. You know, when you said, I'll wait to get all of this information and then decide where I want to go, it's the same thing I've heard in my career as first-year students. Well, I'm not going to get involved in any activities because I want to adjust to my first year. I have no idea still to this day what that sentence means, but there are people, there are students, professional staff and faculty that want you to get involved in that first year, because that's only going to build on your courses and your grades and helping you reach your educational goals. So don't sit back and wait because you'll get bored and not do well.
Well, and I think about, I mean, Gretchen and Lena, you know, this to thine own self be true, you know, and really don't take what your best friend is going to be doing. Don't take what your, you know, cousin did, even maybe what your parents did, or what you think people like. Go in, gather the information, get it all. And I really think that is going to be, that is the way that we see, you know, students really can find their fit. Is, you know, yes, this acronym's great and they do it, but it's not going to work if you're putting that acronym on somebody else's and having somebody else influence, you know, what it all, you know, what it matters to you. So really take a look at those things. And again, we're here to help you with that and to walk you through that. So,
And Stacey, may I add something onto that? When you find that fit and we encourage you to visit the schools. If you are able to physically visit those schools, look at the institution's websites, find out what it means to have a campus visit, find out what their process is to schedule a campus visit. And I'll give you an example out here. If you want to schedule a campus visit, you'll meet with an admissions counselor, you'll meet one-on-one with a financial aid associate, you'll meet one-on-one with a faculty member, one-on-one with your future academic advisor for your first semester. You'll also meet with, believe it or not, a representative of our business office to let you know that who that person is if you have questions. You might not remember what they say, but at least you know there was somebody there that is ready to help you when you need it. If you need services for students with disabilities, we will schedule that appointment for you as well as auditions, campus tour, and so on and so on. So find out what those colleges and universities that interest you can do to for a campus visit so you can get your questions answered. And one of two things will happen. And I know there's a separate session on visiting campuses, but one of two things will happen. You will get on that campus and have that visit and say, oh my gosh, I can see myself here. Or you will get on that campus and participate in your entire visit and you will say, gosh, everybody's really nice, but this is not for me. And we're okay with that. So visit if you can. It's very cool to be seen with your parents on a college campus. They might buy you sweatshirts.
Yeah.
I think we have a couple.
Here. Oh, sorry, Lena, you were going to say something.
Oh, well, I was just going to move a little bit on from the gap year, but just I'll plant the seed. There's a lot of questions in the chat about scholarships and also scholarships in terms of, you know, when do I apply? How do I apply for them? Can I get scholarships if I'm a junior? Do you look at my grades until my junior year since I'm submitting everything right now? Or what about my senior year? So I just honestly gave you a bunch of questions that are in the chat, but are all related to the same thing.
Well, I think when you're looking at scholarships, well, first of all, I mean, I think it'll depend on if it's a scholarship from the institution or what we call an outside scholarship. So ROTC or the Rotary Club, or your maybe a local business in a small town gives a scholarship, or your church or something like that. So there's going to be different scholarships. Education Quest does, again, a great job of having a scholarship page listed. I have to go back to Lena, and I don't know if Gretchen, Lena, talk to us, and we will guide you on the best way to get the most. The bottom line is we want you at our institutions, and so we're going to give you the best avenue to get you there. And whether that means, applying for an outside scholarship or the scholarships that are given, through our institutions, we're wanting to get you there. We're wanting to help you get there. And so, I think that's a great question to ask each individual college on these booths. But Lena, that does take us back to, I think that you had said, when you do try to take a gap year, that can affect a first-year scholarship. Usually first-year scholarships right out of high school are the strongest from the university. So if you're just like, oh, I'm just going to wait, I'm just going to take a gap year, a lot of times that does affect some scholarship opportunities, right?
Sure does.
So yes, absolutely. I think that the scholarships, it is a timing issue. And I think that letting us know that you're interested is usually the first step. And you, as a junior, you let us know that you're interested by visiting with us in the booths, by going to our website and requesting information.
Right.
As a senior, honestly, submitting the application is how you tell us that you're interested.
Takes you from here to here, right?
Exactly.
It's like out here in cyberspace to here right in front of us.
Because then once you submit the application, then we start kind of we start, of course, sending you more stuff, but telling you about FAFSA, and we then can create a whole financial aid packet, etc.
Right.
And I know that for grades, we look all the grades up to their senior year. So don't slack off your senior year. In fact, for some students, they maybe their ninth grade was not so great,
Right.
but their senior year is outstanding. That progress, that kind of, I'm taking this seriously, that's what we want to see, and we take that into consideration. Same thing in the opposite, right? If your ninth grade was fantastic and then your senior year not so much, well, that also gives us a little bit of a red flag. So, of course, there is context for all of this.
Yep.
So let us know, and that's why if you have any of those things happening in your life, essays, whenever you have to write an essay, it's a great opportunity to explain that circumstance,
Right.
to explain that context. So know that if you're a junior, you start kind of exploring your window shopping for your salsa. You're kind of observing what the seniors are doing. You're noting down the deadlines for the applications and the scholarships. Seniors, you're actually bulking down and you're doing things. You're sending the applications for admission, hopefully before Thanksgiving is my recommendation. That way you have between Thanksgiving and before winter break to really concentrate on scholarships. There are some scholarships even after winter break, but we really want you to probably have everything done even as soon as that. And I know I'm probably adding more pressure and anxiety to you, but that's why if you get the application done, even tonight, let me just do some homework. Pick 5 colleges, pick 3 colleges, do one tonight, and you feel that, got it done. The application for admission was not as painful as I expected it. And then you continue moving in the process. And read your emails. Because
And
we
answer your
send
phone
you a
and
lot of
text from us.
information.
You know what I always say, you guys? I always say, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know me. And so I'm trying to help you get through so that you don't have to feel overwhelmed. So you don't have to know everything. Just get onto our radar and we will start helping you like this step and this step and this step. And we love that. We're waiting in the wings to help you with that.
And there's a question about what are some ways to get scholarships. And I think I'm going to be very general here just because I want to encourage everyone to do what they can do in the things that are under your control. And I think merit scholarships are probably one of the most popular scholarships in that it recognizes what you did in high school in terms of your grades.
Right.
So of course, the highest your GPA, the better the rigor, all of that is part of the formula that is taking part of there. But there are also some scholarships that are going to be looking at your leadership opportunities a little bit better. So on leadership, yes, what you do in high school, in the school matters, but that's not the only hat that you're wearing. So sometimes you are enacting your leadership at your church, or you're enacting your leadership at a different community organization, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, I don't know. So that's kind of another kind of scholarship. Talent scholarships, depending on your music or theater, you could be recruited for those things, including being an athlete. Honestly, there are also some scholarships that if you come from this county, then you get a scholarship. So there is just so much things out there, almost impossible to kind of create, honestly, to be 100% honest, a complete and full database of all the scholarships in the world today. Right. The best thing to do is figure out what universities you want to go to, submit the application there, and be very in tune with kind of scholarships they offer. Right. Of course, there are the bigger entities, Coca-Cola scholarships, and probably Adele scholarship this year. I don't know. There are probably those national scholarships. Pay attention, apply, apply, apply. If you're reusing essays, edit the essay. Right. So you apply to the Pepsi scholarship saying, I'm applying to the Pepsi scholarship and not Coca-Cola, because they're not gonna like that. So if you're, it's okay to reuse essays, but edit them. Right. So you answer the questions that they're asking. Any other ways that a student could get a scholarship, can you think?
Well, one I think is key for the state of Nebraska is the Susan Thompson Buffett Scholarship. Completing that, a lot of students high school students choose not to complete it because it can be intense. But if you are spending, 30 minutes, 45 minutes completing a scholarship application and you receive a $500 scholarship or a $2,000 scholarship, I mean, that's great. I mean, think about that. Where at your age can you make that kind of money legally by completing scholarship applications?
Right.
And the Susan Thompson Buffett Scholarship, students can use at a community college, and when they transfer to a four-year school, they take that scholarship with them. So definitely look into that. There is students leave, if I can use it in quotes, a lot of money on the table because they won't take the time to complete scholarship applications. I think, Stacy, you mentioned something about outside scholarships from community organizations, civic organizations. They might have an essay or two required for it. Spend the time to do it, but be sure, as Lena said, you are answering the question.
Mhm.
There is nothing worse than reading an outside scholarship application from a civic organization that I belong to, and they're not answering the question, they're answering a question for something else. So absolutely pay attention to those details.
Yeah.
And make sure it's your work.
Yes, make sure that is your work. I love that. And I think that for those talent scholarships, whether you're an athlete or theater or music, I think being in touch with the coach or the director of those areas is probably the most important thing. It is a talent. So that means that you're bringing something to the university, but the university is a competitive talent. Usually there are spaces for this many athletes. There is spaces for this many trombone players.
Right.
So it is usually a competitive. So if you are, in order for you need to be in the coach's radar or in the director's radar for that to happen. So it is a separate probably mechanism than the admissions process, I would argue, but it's a parallel process.
Right.
So make sure that you're submitting the admission application so you are admissible, so you can be admitted, so you show interest, and then talk to whoever. If you are a soccer player, talk to your coach and say, I want to play soccer in college. How do I get in touch with the coach at University of X, at the community college of X, whatever it is? They are usually in the know. Of course, if you talk to us also and you say, I'm interested in playing, we'll let you know in our own institutions.
Right. Yeah, because there can be auditions and tryouts and different things that I love that word parallel, Lena. Like it doesn't mean that, we're in contact with them, but we have to do things at the same time. So you could audition for or try out for the theater program and get in and then not be able to get into the university. Well, that doesn't make any sense, or vice versa. So we're parallel and we're working together to make sure that happens for you.
There's a question out here. If you're, I can't find it now. If you're an athlete, should you apply to the school first? If you are looking at any of the talent-based scholarships, whether it's performing arts or it's being a student athlete, my recommendation is yes, apply to the institutions because it shows that you have an interest in that school.
Right.
And you're not just waiting on the coach to make a decision for you. Two, you might have outstanding talent, but you might not make the admissions requirement. So you might be able to find that out ahead of time, and that is so important. There was another question on here about rolling admissions. If we're talking about the admissions process, rolling admissions means you apply, and then within that week, if not sooner, you'll have an admissions decision. So we make admissions decisions on a rolling basis every day.
Right. And Nebraska Wesleyan has early action. Doesn't mean early decision. It means early that you're early. So if you're sitting in this webinar, you're early. Okay, you're getting things early. So before October 15th, we have extra scholarship for it. We have extra benefits for it. It doesn't mean you've made your decision. It just means you're doing things early so you get benefits for doing that and getting those better housing and better all these things that are gonna be better for you because you're early. So again, it doesn't mean that yes, I've made my decision. It just means that you're doing things early. So,
and I want to, there is a couple things on the chat. I just don't want to be any confusion. And I think
okay.
I'm going to reinstate some of the things. So
Okay.
right now there is a trend for schools to not look at your standardized testing, ACT or SAT, for scholarship purposes. And I don't know if this is going to be permanent or not, but I think that there are more opportunities for students that don't have the ACT yet. So if you have not taken the ACT or the SAT, go ahead and submit your application for admission and start submitting the applications for scholarships. And we'll kind of guide you through the process. And then the other one was, is it possible to go to a community college and a 4-year at the same time?
Okay.
Yes,
Gretchen,
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
Yes, it
I mean,
is.
depending on the schedules.
Correct.
I mean, your
Yeah.
schedule might not, you have to make sure you're really working that and really making sure you're doing the scheduling correctly, but.
Right. We see some students, not many, but we see some students may be enrolled here, but want to take some online classes at a university or vice versa. Definitely work with the financial aid offices at both schools, because that's going to be very key into getting your financial aid package to cover everything if you are eligible for that. There was a question out here: if I do cheerleading and I get a scholarship for it, can I accept it even if I don't want to do it? No. If you receive a cheerleading scholarship, they're going to expect you to be cheerleading. So that's one of those talent-based awards. So yeah, you'll have to accept it.
But that doesn't mean, so if you accept the cheerleading scholarship, it means that you're going to be a cheerleader and you're going to get the scholarship while you're a cheerleader in college. But it doesn't mean that you're going to be a professional cheerleader for your career. So you could still be going pre-med, cheerleading, getting a scholarship for cheerleading, and then be a doctor. And then when you graduate from college, no more cheerleading, or only on the Saturdays when the games are going on in your house in front of the TV. There is a good question here that if you complete all high school requirements and you can graduate early, what do you recommend? Should I stay for the rest of my senior year or work only on scholarships, classes? What do you think? If I can graduate early, what are some of the consequences of that?
Well, I can tell you, of course, there's different situations, right, for everything, why they're graduating. If it is literally just to get out of high school, you're done with high school, you want to get out, you want to get started, you definitely can graduate early, and you can start right away in January somewhere. I mean, here, you could start at Nebraska, you could start at the state schools at SCC, or you could wait, you could work, you could go and then start in the fall. The fall is the traditional starting of school, and so therefore for 4-year colleges, when you start in the fall, you're going to get that more traditional feel. Now, can you still go on and do everything? Yes, you can still have the college experience if you start in January. But I think that if you really are after the traditional feel, I would suggest to just wait, do your senior year, get your GPA up a little bit, maybe work a little bit, a little bit more, take a couple less classes and maybe get some more, or do something like that. But if your whole goal is like, I want to get in and out and fast, yeah, you can do that. It just won't feel the same as what we normally think of.
And I think that the connection with the community colleges, Gretchen, I'm just going to pass the ball to you, because I do think that you can do both. You don't have to graduate necessarily early, but you could start taking classes at the community college, for example, and it's honestly is baking the cake and eating it too, or whatever that statement is supposed to be saying.
Having your
Gretchen,
cake.
sorry, I interrupted you.
But that's okay. I like to bake a cake. But that leads us into our dual enrollment. We've only got 5 minutes, but let's talk a little bit about the dual enrollment. Students that have dual enrollment credits, or if they can get dual enrollment. Gretchen, you can kind of talk on that.
Sure. We have a lot of students that take dual enrollment classes through the community colleges. And say you find at the end of your junior year, you've met all the minimal requirements to graduate from your high school. Go ahead and talk with your counselor, talk with your folks, and see about taking dual enrollment classes. Because if you're taking dual enrollment classes, usually the cost per credit is less than being a first-time freshman. And so, wow, you know, take some classes, earn some credits, do well in your grades, and you'll be able to earn high school credit as well as college credit. And then that credit should and would transfer. We have some students that we've seen in our community colleges that take a dual credit, so much so that they graduate from WNCC on a Saturday and graduate from their high school the very next day on that Sunday.
Right.
So not all students do that, but my recommendation is some students can earn up to 12 credits, up to 24 credits. That's a minimal first time or first full year of college after you graduate. So definitely talk with your school counselors. For those seniors, if you want to take some dual credit classes in the spring semester, definitely visit with your school counselor. If you're a high school junior and a sophomore that may be listening in, talk with your counselor. Find out what the requirements are to be able to be eligible to take dual credit classes. And that way you're earning high school credit as well as earning your college credit. Now keep in mind, you're earning a college GPA with those classes. And so we want you to do well in those classes, because when then you think about continuing, say, at that community college, you might have a year left to earn your associate's degree, and then transfer that community college GPA will be evaluated by the four-year colleges and universities.
Well, so we only have 3 minutes. So we need to wrap it up. I know that there are questions that did not get asked. We will have those questions. We have record of those questions. And so we will be able to reach out to you. We'll be able to follow up. My suggestion is definitely to go to the booths, to the individual booths, and ask those questions right now from the representatives that are waiting all day. There's Derek. That's our cue that we're up. But I can tell you this has been a blast. Right?
I'll do a 1 minute closing too. I think that if we put all our contact information maybe in the chat, that would be very helpful for the students as well. Absolutely. And I think that at least for you and the Nebraska system, the state colleges, you need to be a senior in order to submit your application for a scholarship. Yes, so if you
for me too.
Okay. So just know that you don't submit the application for admission your junior year. You concentrate on your grades. You concentrate on your essays. And I've heard this in all my workshops that I've gone to, at least in Nebraska. Sending your standardized test, sending your ACT or SAT is not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. So even if you have a bad test score, don't worry about taking it away from your transcripts or anything like that. It's only going to help you. It won't hurt you.